Our next talk, Succeeding with Open Source by Phil Arndt.
Hello. Okay. Hi, I am. The timer isn't working. Hi, I'm Philip Arndt. You may know me from the internet as P. Arndt or Arndt. I run a company in New Zealand called Manuka Coalition, and I was twice elected the Ruby New Zealand president. And I have stickers. Ask me after this talk or throughout the talk, but I probably won't respond. I live in a place called Christchurch inside New Zealand. That's where it is. It's a really beautiful place. New Zealand is not Australia. There's been a little bit of confusion about this, but that's not the case, as this crude map shows. I'm really excited to be here in the Phillip Pines. Right, Phillip Pines. Phillip Pines. I contributed to and also maintain a few Ruby gems you might have heard of, and some you probably haven't, like Emo Ruby, but it's a real thing. I have a surprising amount of downloads for these things. So today I'm going to talk about succeeding, but with open source. So success can mean a lot of different things, but today I'm going to focus mainly just on the career success to do with open source. So a quick poll. Who here contributes to open source in any way? Okay. Who maintains at least one open source library? Okay, probably about a similar amount. So, once upon a time, in a land far, far away, which is New Zealand, there existed a group of us at a company called Resolve Digital, and we mainly built websites for clients. We liked programming quite a lot, programming in Ruby especially, but not really updating content or doing anything manually that we could not have to do. And we didn't like getting requests from clients saying, hey, can you update this thing on our website? So we built an in-house content management system, like everybody does, right? This is it. This is called mTools. This is from a website built around 2008, even though the copyright says 2015, just because that's Ruby magic. This was a good system, but we found it was kind of hard to maintain because it was basically a Rails package or a Rails website that we downloaded and then modified every time we wanted to use it. And so we thought that cloning the repo and then writing directly on top of it probably wasn't that maintainable because of when you wanted to fix a bug, you had to actually go and fix it at every single website that's been done on that version or that had that bug. So we almost basically just threw it away and went with an existing open source option, but there weren't really that many at the time that we thought fitted our needs. And so while mTools wasn't perfect by any stretch, it had its heart in the right place. It just needed a little love to be something great. So mTools these days is called Refinery CMS. Hopefully one or two of you have used it. It's now the most popular open source content management system for Ruby by a pretty good margin. So you all may be wondering, but why would we open source something that was ours and our competitors could then go and use for free and not have to pay us any money for? Wouldn't they just undercut us? Wouldn't we lose jobs to our competitors? And open source is free, right? So it can't be all about the money, even though that looks like a lot of it. And with mTools, it didn't start out that way. We just thought it was kind of cool and we wanted to share it with other people. But we soon found out that our clients really loved having a stable platform that was used by other people, and they really loved apparently popular platforms. So it actually became quite a lot easier to sell a system that was using something that other people were using. And as Danish mentioned, money is pretty important, whether you like it or not. These days, whether to produce or consume open source can be a financial decision. And the internet's made the world a whole lot smaller, and so it's important to do really good work so that everybody can see it and sell quality software. And so the company benefits from open sourcing. In this case, we saw like 3 main benefits. The first was that we got new clients, probably the lifeblood of any business that does consulting work. And so open sourcing it showed off our work to a much larger audience. People would actually contact us just by seeing the project's website with a little logo on the footer of their website. So people, clicked through to that and gave us an inquiry, and we got a job from it. It proved that we were experts in creating user-friendly systems, so people could believe that because we made this thing, we could make their thing in a user-friendly way. And other companies started to use it and made websites for their customers, and that means that they found all the bugs that we never wrote, of course, because someone else wrote the bugs. But they would fix those for us, or they would just point them out, and then we could fix those. And so that was, not having to spend hours chasing down typos. Great for us and great for them. Made their sites a little bit cheaper. Helped us to deliver on time. And so it helped to prove that the open source model was really good to our customers. And the third thing is that other businesses or hobbyists, they just made all sorts of extensions, which is really great. So basically we could find stuff that other people had made, and then we could point that to our existing clients or new clients and say, hey, we can now do this, and it's pretty easy. We just have to change it to make it look like your website, and it's all ready to go. We had wins because we had to fix fewer bugs. It was a win for our clients because they got new functionality at a much lower cost, and it was a benefit to our contributors because they got all the same reasons. Like, we all benefited in the same ways. So at the beginning of this, I was completely new to open source. I hadn't really done much. I just heard about it and thought it was kind of a cool thing for the world to have free software. But this is like diving straight into the deep end of the swimming pool. And so what have I learned to do this? Which is, I suppose, the main point of this talk. So when I'm the maintainer, this is what these points are about. I found out that I largely get out what I put into it. This applies to dealing with contributors and maintainers, other maintainers alike. If I don't invest in the community that surrounds the open source product that I'm working on or that I want to get out there, then they're not going to contribute back, which is fair enough. I have to take contributions seriously. It's pretty frustrating when you go to create a huge pull request for a project and it gets addressed like 3 or 4 months later, and by then you're kind of moved on, or you've moved to a different thing, or you can't remember why you even opened the pull request in the first place. So I like to get to things as soon as I possibly can, which is really hard when you have limited time, but it's still something I like to do. Second is not to get angry, which seems like kind of strange, but that you get angry over open source, but people tend to do that every day on the internet. This mainly applies when somebody will send or open an issue saying, hey, your code sucks. It's a too long, didn't read version, but it'll be like there's an issue or a bug, and they want to fix it, right now. And so the first impression you can have is to get really upset and offended that somebody's pointing out that your software is not as great as you thought it was. But assuming that they didn't mean that is the best thing to do. And the best advice I've heard is just to give it 5 minutes, not like literally 5 minutes, but just take a step back and have a think about what it is that is offending you about this feedback from this person that you probably don't even know or haven't even heard of before. Think about what's really going on. Ask yourself, are they trying to offend me? And the answer is probably not. They're just probably trying to improve the product like you are. I try not to demand complicated processes from contributors. I can probably do those for them. This helps to remove barriers to contribution, which are quite large, especially when you're new to open source and you want to fix something, but you don't know all the etiquette surrounding it, or you don't know quite how. And so I can remove unnecessary hurdles for contributors. And a great example of this is Git REBASE. Who's tried to rebase using Git before? Yeah, it's not the easiest of things to do when something goes wrong, like the project explodes and becomes like in a really unknown state. And so this is not something that I want to happen for someone who's just trying to like fix a typo or something. So something I've seen a lot on open source projects is this statement, which I've said before, and I'm sorry if I've said it to you, I'm trying to change. So after a few years of experience doing this, I can probably just do that for the contributor and make their life a lot easier. And that is a nice way of saying thank you. And then if that contributor decides to contribute again and they have the same problem, then I can probably teach them how I did that last time. Or I can probably teach them the first time if they're interested. This is the huge one with open source maintenance, is burnout. For a while I thought I had to stand in the way of every new patch that came in and check everything and think about it critically and like analyze, what was this comment that they want to put in perfect. And I realized that it doesn't really matter. Good code is better than perfect code. Justin Searles had a great talk about how to deal with this sort of stuff at RubyConf in San Diego, and I'll tweet out the link later so that you don't have to look it up. So when I contribute to a project, I try to pretend that I'm the maintainer for the project, and I'm submitting myself a pull request, and what am I going to think when I write the things that I write? So I'm probably, one of the huge examples, I'm probably going to want tests, and I'm probably going to want clean commits with good commit messages. So I try and do that when I'm contributing. And a lot of pull requests won't get merged. A lot of changes that I think are really important, the maintainer probably doesn't want. And so one thing that I love doing nowadays is to discuss major changes first. One of the large contributing factors to me doing this is when I changed the indentation across the entire Rails project, which took a few hours. Because their guidelines said that it was supposed to be indented in a particular way and it wasn't indented in a particular way. So I thought, I must fix this. And that was just an example of a few wasted hours. It could have been a lot worse, but I could have asked up front, hey, is this right? And in the end, they ended up changing the guideline to be the way that it currently was. So I guess something happened. Small changes are good. My priority when contributing is to always get something fixed, or just basically to get my pull request merged, because I have a change that I think needs to be in there. So the key to this, I think, is to keep it as small as possible. Don't try and do too much. Like I wouldn't expect when I'm maintaining a project to get a pull request that changed one small feature and then the entire hash syntax of the whole project to like the new Ruby 1.9 amazing syntax. So I try not to do that either. We're all extremely opinionated as Rubyists, right? And our own style of writing code is the best way possible and everyone else is wrong. But I found it extremely useful to ignore my own preferences and look at the style that the code is currently written in and just copy that. This shows respect for the maintainer. It takes a whole lot less time to review for them because they understand it. It looks the same as what they're used to. And this results in less going back and forth over silly little issues, sending emails back and forth or GitHub or whatever. And it probably means that the patch will get merged. And existing solutions can appear to be really crappy or poorly written, but there are many reasons for this. The maintainer probably isn't a terrible programmer. They probably had limited time, and this was just good enough to ship it. And I tend to prefer working tested code over perfect code anyway. And maintainers just generally love code improvement. It's just best to be polite when doing it, not to say, hey, the current code really sucks, so I fixed it and now it's awesome. That's not going to make friends. And perfect it totally gets in the way of just doing something good and moving the project along. Your proposal to change something can actually start a really valuable discussion. It doesn't have to be like the perfect change. Someone else may chime in and say, hey, I've got another patch for this that works better. And that's fine. My solution is just a catalyst. It's just good to get the discussion started. So how has open source helped my career with all of these things? I see my career as two distinct parts, being technical and social. For me to be happy, both of those have to be fulfilled. So technically, this gives me really good new skills. I've had to keep pace with updates to other large libraries like Rails. Refinery is a system for Rails. And so I had to, every time there was a major change, I had to learn what that change was and why my system broke, because it was hugely coupled to that. And it's exposed me to heaps of different styles of coding, which is great because my style is not the best, after all. And it teaches my brain to think about code in new and interesting ways, just by seeing the way that other people have solved problems, or even seeing problems I didn't even know existed. Like, I mean, did you mean? Come on. Socially, it's all about the people. And open source has helped me to succeed in this aspect hugely. I mean, GitHub's tagline is social coding, and that's what I really love above all else, is I get to work on cool projects with some really nice people. This one can't help, right? I mean, this might be going a little bit far. I don't think I'm very famous, but I've been to conferences before and people will walk up to me and say, hey, you're that refinery guy, right? And that's kind of nice to hear sometimes, if someone's actually used your work, as long as the next sentence isn't, yeah, I hate that system. Which is okay too. It's led to way better jobs. As the owner of a consulting company, I'm really on the lookout for good jobs, like tough problems to solve, really in fun ways. And so when finding new work, the best work that's come to me has been through people that I know or I've met through doing open source work, and they're like, hey, you love doing this sort of stuff. Well, I mean, we need that done for our product, so why not come on board? And so that's led to way better work over the long run. And people I don't even know have hired me based on the work that I put on the internet for free as open source, which is amazingly cool. And of course, travel. It's currently heading into winter in New Zealand, so I was able to hop on a plane and come to the sunny Philippines and get immersed in this great culture and community, which is something I never would have had an opportunity to do if I was working in the closed source world, I guess. And I was able to spend 9 months traveling around the world last year, and that was financed, exclusively, I guess, through work that I've gained through open source connections and people I've met through that, which is pretty cool. And without open source, I wouldn't be here speaking to you today, so you can blame that, I guess. And so let's bring this all to a close. It was really, really scary starting out in open source. I hadn't done it before. Suddenly I was putting work that I'd contributed to on the internet with all of its bugs and horrible interfaces that I thought were not great. And imposter syndrome is totally a thing, which surprisingly no one's mentioned at this conference really, but it's the thought that you're not good enough and that all of your code is way worse than everybody else's. But just doing it, just getting out there and just pushing code and showing off what you can do is extremely valuable. And all of the benefits totally outweigh what it costs you. I wouldn't have made it to like a lot of conferences I've been to. I wouldn't have gotten work that I've gotten, and I wouldn't have made a whole lot of the friends that I've made through going to all of these things, and through just chatting to people online about code. Yeah. So thank you very much for listening. Or salam alaikum. And ask me for stickers.
There's a lot of time actually.
Oh, yeah. Excellent.
You did it in
Time
20
for a
minutes.
question. Yeah.
Okay.
Just real quick, when you have propose a big change, do you use GitHub issues to discuss a change? Or, I mean, that could be a little aggressive to like open an issue when you're just trying to propose or open a discussion. Is it the right forum?
Is GitHub issues the right form to open a change request? Is that
No,
like,
not a change
to
request. You
propose?
said to propose big changes, don't just submit a giant thing. So how would you want to be approached?
So if the project has a chat room, which a lot of them do, just join that, talk to them there. If it doesn't, they'll usually have a contributing guideline of some kind if they've been around a while. If it's just a tiny project, then I guess just open an issue. What I tend to do is follow that. If I can chat with them in real time, then that's the best. If not, then I just go down the chain until I find a way that I can get in touch. And if I can find their email somewhere, then maybe, like it's a controversial change, I might send them a message about that. But I try and not email people because I get hundreds of emails, and so yeah, that's kind of exhausting. Yeah.
Oh, I will add to the comment that you just made. If there are GitHub issues, please search it first.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to close the new issue because it's a duplicate.
Yeah, duplicates are the most common issue. Anybody else? Yes, Richard Schneeman.
If somebody's interested in getting involved in open source, are there any sort of like apps or?
Nothing exists. There is actually a wonderful site that Richard and I both contributed to called codetriage.com, which is codetriage.com. I'm sure you can ask one of us about it later if you want. Basically, that emails you about new issues on projects and that haven't been fixed yet, and basically spurs you into action, gets you contributing to open source. And there's also a new one called docsdoctor, right?
.org.
.org. Docsdoctor.org. Try saying that 10 times.
Thank you, Phil. I didn't know about either of those.
That's all right, Richard. Anyone else? I'm going to give it 3 seconds. 2, 1. Good night.